I am a Negro and beautiful. Langston Hughes' influence on Black pop culture in the 21st century. Why should I want to be white? I am a Negro and beautiful. Langston Hughes, the Negro artist and the racial mountain. As someone who loves art history, I particularly love this portrait of Langston Hughes in 1925. Here, he would have been 24 years old, having already begun to craft his voice through The Negro Speaks of Rivers and When Sue Wears Red, both pieces written when he was in high school. By this point, he had already been to Mexico for 1 year to live with his estranged father, as well as having traveled to West Africa and Europe as a crewman aboard the SS Malone. The Hughes I see is already, as Donald B. Gibson notes, turning outward, using language and themes, attitudes and ideas familiar to anyone who had the ability to simply read. Fixated not on his own self-promotion and his own self-acclaim, but on how to forge a unifying Black voice for Black America. This portrait was painted in the height of the Harlem Renaissance, after Hughes had published his groundbreaking essay, The Negro Artist and the Racial Mountain, in which he famously declares, "I am a Negro and beautiful." This celebration of Blackness, evident in his writings, compelled Hughes to depict the working Black man, the jazzer, the ladies' man, the waiters, the nurses in his poems. The abstract blue and white background, an obvious nod to the jazz and the blues, musical tastes that informed much of Hughes' work, include a fire, Harlem, an ascending staircase, perhaps meant to symbolize the upward move toward racial equity. All are references to Hughes' literal background that would go on to shape his career. We younger Negro artists who create now intend to express our individual dark-skinned selves without fear or shame. If white people are pleased, we are glad. If they are not, it doesn't matter. We know we are beautiful. And ugly, too. The tom-tom cries and the tom-tom laughs. If colored people are pleased, we are. If they are not, their displeasure doesn't matter either. We build our temples for tomorrow, strong as we know how, and we stand on top of the mountain, free within ourselves. This line from Hughes' essay really stands out to me because of how much it informs so much of Hughes' work. We build our temples for tomorrow, strong as we know how, and we stand on top of the mountain, free within ourselves. His confident assurance that Black people were beautiful simply because they were Black, that his Blackness did not diminish his value, that one day Black people would achieve racial and social equity. This mentality paved the way for the Harlem Renaissance and the Civil Rights Movement, which in turn continues to inspire social movements today, such as the Black Lives Matter movement, as well as the pop culture that unflinchingly celebrates Blackness. Ryan Coogler, director of MCU's blockbuster superhero film Black Panther, in an interview with Rolling Stone acknowledged, "I think the question that I'm trying to ask and answer in Black Panther is, what does it truly mean to be African?" Especially when we think about this question in the context of the African diaspora, how slavery has made such a huge impact in Northern and Latin America. How could they belong in a place where they were literally uprooted and taken out of their respective homes? This reminds me of Hughes' Theme for English B poem that deals with identity in a racist society. The instructor said, "Go home and write a page tonight, and let that page come out of you. Then it will be true." I wonder if it's that simple. How can the speaker write about himself when he is the only colored student in his class, forced to reckon with a racial identity that immediately sets him apart from his classmates? Nevertheless, the speaker surmises, "I guess being colored doesn't make me not like the same things other folks like who are other races." The things that truly define the speaker, his hobbies, his passions, his dreams, they're not bound by race. He goes on to address his instructor. "You are white, yet a part of me, as I am a part of you. That's American. Jamie Broadnax, the founder of Black Girl Nerds, a pop culture site focused on sci-fi and comic book fandoms, notes how Black Panther characters are rulers of a kingdom, inventors, and creators of advanced technology. We're not dealing with Black pain and Black suffering and Black poverty, the usual topics of acclaimed movies about the Black experience. As Rolling Stone's Trey Johnson writes, in this Afrofuturistic world, director Ryan Coogler has created a modern Black superhero that all previous iterations have fallen short of doing, making it respectable, imaginative, and powerful. That Afropunk and Afrofuturism aesthetics, the unapologetic Black swagger, the minuscule appearances from non-Black characters, it's an important resetting of a standard of what's possible around creating a mythology for a Black superhero. The imagining of a world where Black individuals are not only in the future, but they themselves are the future, echoes Hughes' sentiments in The Negro Artist and the Racial Mountain, in which he proclaims, "We build our temples for tomorrow, strong as we know how, and we stand on top of the mountain, free within ourselves." Peter Ramsey, the co-director of the animated hit Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, made history in 2019 as the first African American to be nominated for an Academy Award in the animated feature category. He speaks of the importance of representation, saying, "It means a lot for young Black and Latino kids to see themselves up on screen in these iconic, heroic, mythic stories," he says. "It's a need being fulfilled." For those who haven't seen the film, Miles Morales is a Brooklyn native with an African-American father and a Puerto Rican mother. As Jada Gomez for Bustle writes, Into the Spider-Verse begins with Miles Morales sitting in his desk in a Brooklyn bedroom covered in rap posters, wearing huge headphones, and mumbling lyrics to his song with just as much focus as he gives the textbook opened in front of him. At the same time, he's completely oblivious to his parents bellowing from another room to get his attention. Miles is presented as a typical teenager, nervous around his crush, Gwen Stacy, struggling to fit into an elite, private, predominantly white school. His struggles are just like most of us have. Awkward in high school, awkward around our crush, not really sure where they fit in. Ramsey says, this genre allows people to sort of project themselves onto these heroic figures who struggle with their own difficulties and own insecurities. People of color in particular want to be part of the story, want to be part of the myth. If you can't be part of a myth like that, then what do you have in a culture? There's so many exciting Black creators and creators of color in all genders, and the realization that this kind of diversity really does give rise to more interesting movies says, it just feels like it's going to help unlock a key, creatively, for a lot of people, in a lot of different ways, that we don't even realize yet. For me, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse had a lot of I Too vibes. I Too by Langston Hughes. I too sing America. I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes, but I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow I'll be at the table when company comes. Nobody'll dare say to me, eat in the kitchen then. Besides, they'll see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. I too am America. The lack of diversity in Hollywood is one thing that the industry is often called out on. Portrayals of Blacks or Latinos in stereotypical depictions and characterizations have often damaged the public's view of them. However, by allowing Miles Morales to exist as just a normal human being, a normal teenage kid, he shows how, though he is the darker brother, he deserves a place at the table. He deserves to be included. And besides, they're going to see how beautiful he is and be ashamed all along. Allowing Black individuals to exist in movies and on TV shows and in books without being perfect, without being the stereotype, without even fitting any mold, allows Black people to exist unapologetically, without fear or constraint. They are simply allowed to be human. Childish Gambino's music video, This Is America, has one particularly chilling scene in which Donald Glover poses as the racist caricature of Jim Crow. Now, Jim Crow was a racist stereotype and caricature of Black individuals as not smart, foolish, ignorant, untrustworthy, overall not worthy to be a member of white society, not worthy of being integrated into white society. These fears cast divisions among white and Black Americans, as we see in the next slide, Kids Who Die, a poem by Langston Hughes, in which he laments how kids who die are overlooked, are ignored, are left behind. However, Langston Hughes ends this poem by saying, "But the day will come, you are sure yourselves that it is coming, when the marching feet of the masses will raise for you a living monument of love and joy and laughter, and Black hands and white hands clasped as one, and a song that reaches the sky, the song of the life triumphant through the kids who die." Hughes was not some obscure poet trapped writing away in his ivory tower. He was very acutely aware, I'd say, of the racial tensions that existed between white communities and Black communities, namely police communities versus majorative Black communities. As we see today in this picture, the Black Lives Matter Plaza, currently in DC, although I think as of October 2020 it may have been painted over, racial tensions continue to exist. We hear the shouts of calling for justice for George Floyd, calling for justice for Breonna Taylor. And Hughes was not one to shy away from these harsh and honestly very, very gloomy depictions of what it was like to be Black in America, what it was like to be disproportionately arrested, what it was like to be stereotyped against and have these negative caricatures of you, such as Jim Crow or Sambo, and these negative portrayals and representations. These negative portrayals and representations that fed into how white society viewed Black individuals, even today in the 21st century, and how Langston addresses that in his poetry, and how he's willing to speak out for those who do not have a voice, who are denied a voice, and who, unfortunately, are often forgotten by society. However, Hughes reassures that this is a song that reaches the sky, the song of the life triumphant through the kids who die. This ending, chilling last piece of how Hughes affects pop culture today shows how Hughes celebrated Blackness, how Hughes was unwilling to flinch away from the ugly parts of being Black and how that affected their everyday lives, how he was willing to see them as individuals, as storytellers, as dreamers, as creatives, as people who had something to bring to the table, something to offer society, instead of dismissing them and writing them away as laborers or the working class. Hughes is revolutionary, not so much that he only celebrates Blackness, but he goes beyond that. In his life, you see how he sponsors young Black artists, he encourages them to write. He is really a mentor for younger Black artists, and he really leads by example. He's unafraid to be himself, and he really just embraces who he is, and that is what makes Langston Hughes so memorable. Thank you.